What do you think makes a venue successful?
Our number one response back on, I asked them numerous times, like, why'd you book with us? You know, in the beginning and in the end, I asked them the same thing. And our biggest thing is...
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
Casey Hoffman, welcome to the Venue RX. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
I am very excited as well. And, you know, actually, I want to start with something. You said your 2023 resolution was to get on a podcast. Was that right?
Mm-hmm. Only a year late.
Here we are. Well, to be honest, though, you're in January. So I feel like this is fair play, and we'll just get this released as quick as possible, and then we're only a couple months too late. There we go. We can fudge it. It'll be good. Well, I'm really excited to chat with you today and hear about Brickyard on Main, your second venue. It's 50 Urban
501. Yes.
Very, very cool.
Yep. We named it after, just to touch on that for a second, it was an interurban railway that ran from, we're about 45 minutes north of Columbus. And so it's Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. And there was a passenger railroad that ran, and it was called the Interurban. And so we took urban from that. And then the 501 train car was the luxury train car. It was where the who's who was at. And so we put those together, and that's where Urban 501 comes from.
I love it. Well, we're going to talk about all of the things because I think it's very cool that you went from one, did that. I'm curious what led you to do a second venue. And so we're going to cover that, and this is going to be great. So
yeah, super excited.
Cool. Awesome. So let's dive into it. Before we get started, could you just kind of introduce yourself, your venue, and then I'd like to start kind of what you were doing pre-wedding industry. What was Casey Hoffman's life like before a wedding venue entered the picture?
Okay, so we're going to keep this. It's a very long story, but we're going to keep it as short and sweet as possible.
Okay.
2011, newly engaged. A friend of mine worked in Columbus for a caterer. His husband worked for the caterer, and he did event staff stuff. And he says, you're poor. You need to come and work with me and get money for your wedding. And I said, touche, yes, I do. So I went, absolutely loved it. Like, I loved every bit of it. I worked for one of the top caterers in Columbus and loved it. The only things I didn't love was, as a caterer, we were getting brides down the aisle. We were fluffing dresses. We were doing all of these things. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, we are supposed to be worried about the veggie dip and the bread. Like, why are we doing... Now, fast forward, I am very happy that I had that, I had that base that I knew, I could do back of house stuff, and I could do, the bridal, we all know that drama and all the, facets with parents and all the things. And so I worked for him for, 2018, probably. I was pregnant with my second son. Fat and pregnancy did not, mix well with miles and miles of catering, wear and tear. And I was also in social work. So my actual job, I worked for a juvenile rehabilitation center for felony level male juveniles. And I loved it. Like, I absolutely in the social work world, you either like corrections or you don't. And I just, loved it. It was great. So I did that. And when I was done with catering, there was a guy in our town. So again, we're about 45 minutes north of Columbus. The guy in our town had bought a building, and he was going to make this building into a wedding venue. He was a DJ. He'd been a DJ since high school. And I reached out to him. We were friends of friends, kind of connected, but kind of not. And I said, hey, if you need anybody to bounce ideas off of, I would love to help. 1 hour later, he emailed me back. And the best part of this is that is a miracle in itself. He is the 30,000 email person, and I cannot get him to respond to an email now for the life of me. But then he emailed me back an hour later. We met at Starbucks the next day, and we've been together ever since. He's the second husband that I didn't know I wanted or needed, or, it's like two of us against the world. And so that's how the Brickyard was born. And he does a lot of the creative stuff. I can't make a graphic even with Canva's help to save my life. He does that sort of stuff. And then I do everything else. I mean, I am the sole, I do all the tours, all the bookings. I have event staff day of course. But yeah, it's been a hell of a ride up until this point.
Wow. So that's so neat that you have that partnership now. I'm curious. So I want to ask you a couple of questions about that, because I think a lot of us in the venue industry are lone wolves. And we're mavericks and we're fire starters. But to do a venue, it's a big thing. So I'm curious, were you nervous at all getting into business with someone? Like, how did you go about getting that relationship with them and like get it on paper and kind of working through some of those kind of tough conversations maybe?
Yeah. So when we started, it was just the two of us. So he was paying me like hourly, like, hey, if you do A, B, and C, I'm going to pay. Okay, great. Sounds good. And then there was actually another person that was part of our pod. So, the two owners, they, did all the financing and they did all of the work, all the construction. I was still, over here kind of proving my worth. And then within the last 6 months, we've learned, everyone has their strengths. Everyone has like, my strength is X, and the first owner, his strength is, B, and the last one is 3. Like, we all have our things. And so in the process of that, our one partner, he is off doing his thing, and he owns the other half of downtown. So we own one half, he owns the other half. And we still like work together. I mean, our Airbnbs like are his, and we send our couples to him. So it's absolutely fantastic. But, with Alex and I, like, he asked me, he's like, you deserve this. Like, you deserve it to be on paper. You deserve to own, because he's the first one that will tell you, like, this is me, all me, like 100%. I said, now your name's on the loan from the bank. So that counts for something. But like, and he is the first one, and he is amazing. I have other friends that have venues. I literally was just talking to somebody a week ago, and she left the venue because the owner would come in and be like, you need to do it this way. And then he would walk off into the night. And then she's just like, no, like, I don't. And I said, yeah, he knows who the boss is. Like, if you ask Alex, if you ask him like, hey, who's the boss around here? He will straight look at me and be like, it's her. It's not me. Like, she makes all the decisions. She does everything. But it works so well for us. But I'm so absolutely lucky in the fact that, he understands what I have done over the past 5 years. And I have understood what he has done. And, he's the one that took the risk in the first place. He's the one that rolled the dice. Did I fall into his lap? Yes, I did. Do I make him aware of that on a daily basis? Like, hey, like, dude, like we wouldn't have crap if it wasn't for me. But it's good. Like I said, we have a great dynamic. And yeah, it's worked really well. We're really lucky.
Casey, I'm fascinated with this because I think when someone thinks of venue ownership or being involved in the venue space, they think, oh gosh, I have to go out and buy a building, or I have to go out and buy a ranch or something like that. And you look at some of the price tags and it's $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, $1 million, whatever it is. And then repairs and all that. And it's like, that is a high hurdle. And you have someone like yourself who's extremely competent, capable, and is running the operations side of it. And so there's almost like asset management and property management. You're on that property management side. Those two people have to come together. Yeah. And that asset manager person, the person who's doing the money and doing some of those things, like, they have to find that really competent operational partner. And it seems like you have that in your current relationship. So that's incredible.
So much. Absolutely. I mean, there is Yeah, we are great. We get along awesome. We have our things. It's like, hey, you need to do this. I do this, and it works out. Yeah, it's knock on breaking wood.
Yeah. So I want to tell me a little bit of the rest of the story. So you have Brickyard on Main. When you guys originally bought it, were there modifications that were needed? Was it built? Tell me about all that.
So downtown building, we are like an industrial, downtown space. The building itself, so there's one portion of it that's like 1820s. So we have an original limestone wall that dates back to 1820s. And then it was connected to a bigger, building beside it. They took a wall down in the middle. But it was a Kroger. I mean, in the 30s, it was a Kroger grocery store. And we have the original Kroger doors, like these big, huge, giant wood doors that lead into our bar now. And then, it was a liquor company. To say it was dilapidated is putting it lightly. Someone was living there. There were squatters. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But we bought the building for, pennies, like legit pennies. But we put, near $1 million into it. We've put quite a large chunk of change into it. And, it was an adventure, to say the least. It was an adventure, but we kept 80% of the building, 80% of it. We didn't take any walls down. We added on bridal rooms, a kitchen, half of the bar was there. So we added on the back half of the bar. But that was it. But it's completely gutted. But we kept like the original floors. So it's original hardwood floors that we just sanded and polyed. So we put a ton of effort into it, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
It really sounds like it. I'm curious now going, so Urban 501, second rendition, were you thinking, hey, we want to do the remodel side of it again, or is this something you built?
Oh, no. It was a pre-existing building. Okay. So it was our token Italian restaurant in town. And he got shut down for reasons. And so it had sat empty. It was the last time anybody was in it was the end of 2019, like September, October. And then we walked through it in 22, like August of 2022, July of 2022 is when we walked through it. I was 100% against it. To say I was 100% against it is putting it lightly. Like I have, at the time they considered me an owner. Like I thought like an owner, I acted like one. And so it was the three of us. And so, when we went through it, I was the only one that had worked in a restaurant. I was the only one that had done these things. And I said, guys, this is a terrible idea. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Please don't do it. Excuse me. And, 60 days later, I was outvoted and they bought the building. So they bought the building, and then it was kind of like, here, Casey, what are we going to do with it?
You're like, what do I do with this thing that I said we shouldn't do? Nice.
Exactly.
Why were you against it?
It was they are blocks away from each other. They are legitimately, I have a scooter. I have a Bird scooter that I ride back and forth. We take our tours, which now I love her. I love Urban now. But at the time, but anyway, I ride scooters back and forth. That's how close these two are. So I'm thinking like, okay, we're building a venue blocks away from a very, very successful venue that we already have. And so that was one of the reasons. And then I knew
really well. And on that point, were you worried about it cannibalizing the business from one? Was that kind of the concern?
Essentially, yes. I was like, because how I thought we would do it was we were going to have two completely different vibes of venues. So we kind of did, but I was thinking like stark differences, as in like, Brickyard is industrial black, stone, wood, like just a very, modern industrial. I was thinking like white, just like top to bottom, floor to ceiling, concrete floor, white walls, still very high end, but just completely different. So I can get people that like A, or I can get people that like B. It ended up, Urban is very mid-century modern, in my opinion. It's great. And there are enough differences between them that, I can, if someone inquires about one, they get info about both of them. And I have, a nice chart that says like, hey, Urban only seats 125, but it is a lower price point. So, this is the benefits of Urban. This is the benefits of Brickyard. And 90% of my tours go to both of them. And we have an extremely high tour booking rate. Like it has to be 70% that if they walk in my door, they are booking one of those two venues.
Hey there, pardon the interruption. I wanted to share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it's a brand new association just for venue owners and operators that we launched last year. It's been growing quickly since then, and we would love to offer an invitation to you to be a part of it. WEVA is an association that is purpose-built for venue owners and operators to provide community, education, and networking opportunities just for our industry. We have a number of different resources, including networking, co-working events, local meetups, and all sorts of different things. We will be having a large yearly event as well. We would love to have you part of the community, so please consider joining. We do have a link in the description below, or we will be linking it wherever you're listening to this. So please click on the link, check it out, and we would love to see you inside of WEVA.
That's incredible.
So it was a cannibalism thing, and then another part of it was like, I knew the goal was that they were going to lease out the restaurant, this fully functional restaurant in the bottom of this space. I knew in the back of my head that they were going to end up running this restaurant. I knew it. I knew in my gut of guts. And I was like, guys, you think running a venue is hard. Let's times that by like 10,000. 10,000. Like
lower the profit margin too.
The profit margins are 3%. Like, come on. That is exactly what happened. Like, we had people come in and look at it, and it was either too big or it was too small. And then it was like, Casey, what do you think about us running a restaurant? I'm like, here we go. Here we go. And that's exactly what happened. Has it been great? It's had its moments. But we're starting to get 2020. The Sunday of Labor Day 2023 was our first wedding at Urban. So every one of them is getting... it's just like any other space where you got to figure out the best way to do A, B, and C. So she's getting better, but I always say like, they're like my kids. Like one of them, I love them both, but there are times that I like one way more than I like the other one.
Totally. Speaking from personal experience and managing the venues that we manage, I feel the exact same way. There are moments that I'm like, I love this venue. It's gorgeous. It's stunning. People love it. It's booking. Mm-hmm. There are some moments that I'm like, this is a pain in the butt. The things are breaking, or there's, so that checks out. I'm curious just to kind of give me a perspective of where you're at in terms of bookings. Do you have more currently? It sounds like you have more at the Brickyard versus Urban 501, correct?
Yes.
Would you be willing to share kind of roughly your numbers?
So, to date, I wrote all this down. We've had 145 couples get married at the Brickyard within the last 3 years. So 2020, this will be our fourth season. And then right now, we probably have for 2024, I have 50 plus at Brickyard. I probably have 20-ish at Urban. But it was kind of rough. You know how it is starting a new venue or starting any venue. You've got an iPad with renderings and you have a construction zone and you're just like, it'll be pretty when it's done. I promise you, like it'll look great. But we're already in 2025 now. So my goal is probably at least, like 50 a piece, which in our town is a lot. I know some people are just like 50 weddings. Holy crap. That's like nothing. But, in it's great. We're super happy with that.
So where you're located, just to touch on that, you're in Marion, Ohio, correct?
Yep.
So, and you're smack, I looked at it on the map. You are like right in the middle.
Smack in the middle. Mm-hmm.
Do you get most of your business from Marion, the surrounding area, or are people coming up from Cleveland, or kind of what's the vibe?
Yes. So we are 45 minutes north of Columbus. We are about an hour and a half south of Cleveland. I am 80% not in Marion, Ohio. So to Marion, Ohio, I am expensive. Like, and you know, our prices are very fair. I mean, every year, just like everyone else, like, you know, I get on and I pretend like I'm getting married in Columbus every year, and I get everyone's pricing. And I mean, it's 80% are from Cleveland, Columbus. I mean, I've had New York City. I had a girl that was just like, we just got on the knot and put in the exact specifications that we were looking for, and you won. And so, you know, they had people from Columbus and New York City and Michigan and West Virginia all coming to our tiny little town in Marion. But what I think happens, I mean, I had a tour the other day that she was like, you know, we want to get married in fall of September of this year. And she's like, people are laughing at us and people are telling us we're stupid at venues. And I was like, girl, I ain't gonna tell you that, but it's gonna have to be a Friday, because, you know, my Fridays are still open. So what we see happen is when people realize that their date is booked in Columbus, or they realize that to get them to open their doors are $15,000, and for us to open our doors is $6,000. Their search widens. So they go from looking at like 30 minutes away, and then once they hit that 60-minute mark, we get all of Columbus, and they're like, oh, okay. And then when they come up here, they're like, there is, you know, we've got a brewery 2 doors down. A lot of our grooms go there. And I text the owner and I'm like, hey, we have a groom party coming down to you. And he's like, great, we'll stay open as late as they're here. We have a axe throwing behind us. And, you know, they have a room inside of their axe throwing bar that is great for rehearsal dinners. So I text Dave, the owner, and I'm like, hey, Dave, I've got these people, you know, and here's their number. And it's been so good for our little community. I mean, I'm not a boastful person, but I'm like, I have brought so much business to all of these people. Like it's crazy what it's done, but we're super proud of it. Like we're really, really proud of how we're helping everyone else in our town.
I love that you said that, and that you highlighted that piece, because I understand like how it could sound like, oh, wow, that was like bragging or being boastful or whatever. But realistically, venues are places where people travel to. People who normally wouldn't be in Marion are going to come to Marion for that wedding or whatever. And it drives dollars, it drives taxes, it drives all of the different things that really help the local economy. And so, I mean, I've seen that. And I think the other interesting thing is when you do that, because you're a meeting spot, like an event space, as you can get the word out in the local area to those different, you know, the restaurant, the axe throwing, the pub, all the different places, then they can say, if they hear someone's going to get married, they're like, oh, hey, you got to go talk to Casey. She's right up a couple doors up.
Oh, in a daily basis, my phone rings and it's like, hey, you know, Shauna, Taste of Memphis, said to call you because I want to have a baby shower. And I'm like, I got you. And within hours, you know, the thing is completely planned. And they have contacted, you know, the local charcuterie woman. And now she's going to do a charcuterie table. And it's been really great to see how just our little spot has it has helped all of these other businesses. We've had businesses born from the Brickyard that I'm just like,
love that. You're like, send me a check later.
I'm just like, I want free coffee for like ever. That's it. That's all I want.
So, Casey, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm personally wrestle with all the time. What do you think makes a venue successful? Is it the location? Is it the marketing dollars? Is it, you know, your incredible personality that you're, you know, here chatting with people and you're wanting to book because of you? What do you think makes a venue successful?
Our number one response back on, I asked them numerous times, like, why'd you book with us? in the beginning and in the end, I ask them the same thing. And our biggest thing is that we are normal people. Like, I'm a normal person. I treat everybody like you know what I mean? Like, I always say, I don't kiss your butt during your tour and promise you the world. And then when I have your money, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Or I'm a completely different person once you walk in the store. I will look at you and, no, you want to do something? No, that's just not going to happen. Sorry. Like, because if that's going to bother you, or that's going to be a reason that you don't book our space, like, so be it. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to come back and bite me in the butt, nobody else. But our number one thing is, like, you treated us like normal people. This was not a big, we have a lot of like conglomerates in Columbus that are all owned by one company, or 2 or 3 different companies have 5 venues. And I'm just like, no, like, we treat you, I literally treat you how I want to be treated. And that is from email response times. I tell you, I have a 24-hour response for myself. Literally, it's me. I'm the only one that answers the emails, and it's a 24-hour turnaround. 9 times out of 10, the first line that they email me back with is, oh my gosh, thank you for responding so quickly. And then I will talk to them in a tour, and they're just like, we've sent inquiries out and haven't heard anything from them. And it was a week ago. Or they went on a tour and didn't get a proposal. And I'm like, if I didn't send you this tonight before you left here, I would forget it tomorrow. Like, I would forget everything we talked about. So like, last night I did a tour and it lasted till 9 p.m. and I sat there and I did their proposal and it was in their inbox before I got in my car. So it's little things like that I think are common sense. To me, as a business owner, I'm like, this is common freaking sense. Like, you want to give me your money and I want to take it, but I need to treat you how I would want to be treated. And that is our number one thing. And again, I don't want to toot my own horn or how I expect things and how I want things to happen, but it has just been, hey, you were normal. You didn't wear a 3-piece suit. I mean, we have custom t-shirts that I make, Alex actually makes them. That's his thing. He designs them. And, I have jeans on and a pair of Air Maxes. And that's how I do my tours, because like, this is what I am. This is how I am every day. But I think that is what our success has been. And I am very, from the beginning, I worked every wedding for 2 years. Every single one of them. I trained my staff to be like, look, this is what happens. Like, this is how we respond to it. And so I can assure them that no matter who is there with you that day, they are going to act exactly like I would. They would answer a question like I would. And we haven't yet, knock on wood, I'm sure no one has just given me a bad review, but we have not had a single review. Well, I lied. Last week, oh my gosh, we had a girl leave a review on the caterer on our Google. And I was like, hey, and I wrote a response and she was just, and I said, I'd love for you to reconsider, and she was just like, no, period. And like, so my only 3-star review ever is because of a caterer that was there for a retirement party. So that makes sense.
And if we would have done this last year, if Alex had,
I know, we would have not had a 3-star review.
I just had to mess with you about that. So, okay, so this is cool. You're saying basically there's a number of things you're doing, but what it's coming down to is you being a straight shooter, relatable, what you see is what you get, common sense. I'm curious, what role do you think marketing plays? Like Wedding Wire, The Knot, Here Comes the Guide, like all of that stuff, plus Instagram, plus website, like how does that?
So much. So we recently just changed how we were doing all of our marketing. So we still have The Knot and Wedding Wire. We're still debating. I mean, who isn't debating cutting that cord? Because we don't get a ton. I mean, I know there are some demographics like, Houston, like there's 75,000 venues within, a 5-mile radius of each other. But up here, I mean, we only have 2 in our county, 3. Now I have 2. So there's like 3 in our county. But right now, I mean, we pay a very small amount, in my opinion, to the knot and wedding wire. We do a Facebook ad. We do a hard Facebook and Instagram ad from November 1st until, the end of February. We spend quite a bit, in my opinion, and somebody else's opinion. It's probably not that much money, but to me, Do
you mind giving us, you don't have to give the exact number, but like a range just to qualify so someone listening?
Yeah, no. So I would say a month right now, we're probably at like $2,000 on marketing, which again, you're...
Oh, $2,000 all in.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. And it seemed to me, I'm like, I get our P&Ls and I'm like, oh, can we cut that down? Like
24,000? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, and that's how, but again, our normal is like $1,000 a month. And I mean, yeah, and our numbers are great, but we're testing this. So we kind of changed things up, and we're testing it for until the end of February to kind of see, like, can we cut the knot and wedding wire? And like, I only pay like $400 a month for knot and wedding wire. So, I'm sure, which is a lot less than a ping. So part of me is like, let's keep it for that much. We might as well just keep it. But I don't know. But our Instagram, we have a really good following. So again, I am myself on Instagram. So it is me just, we do AMAs where you can ask any question and I will give you the most unfiltered, answer to that question. And we do stuff like that all the time. And I think that also kind of, puts us up a level and, because it's not some cookie cutter, we're not some, we have our feed is very curated. I'm very, like psycho about, how it goes and what we're showing. And, but stories, I'm like, no, that's where you get to know me. Stories is where you get to know me and you get to know, like, this is how I am. And you either like it or you don't.
Totally. So, I want to go back. I want to say one more thing about marketing and then let's move on.
You're good.
I'm curious, do you think, if you could assign percentages to how important you think those things are? Because you have your location, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not closer to Columbus. You're where you are, right? You're a urban building. You've got basically 2 urban buildings, urban industrial sort of vibe. It's not a farm, something like that. You're in Ohio. So there's location, there's what you're doing for marketing, how much you're spending, your personality, right? There's all those things that are selling points. Do you think you could move the venue and be equally as successful because of all of those other things? Like, is there a silver bullet, or is it just because you've got 9 or 12 golden BBs that you've shot and it hits?
I think that, I am confident in the fact that we could pick up and move to Columbus. I do think we would have, we wouldn't stick out as much as we do now in like a good way. There's a couple of Columbus venues that, I think are great. And we, I've emailed them and they've emailed me, but like we get compared to each other. Yeah. Of course I'm going to say, I'm awesome. And so I would pick me, but I do think our marketing, our social media especially, I do think that does kind of put us a step above, you know what I mean? Like, I'll cuss. It doesn't, you know what I mean? I'm not dropping an F-bomb, but like,
for real, it's organic. It feels good.
Yeah,
like
exactly. We're just organic. It's just, and I do feel like that really does, because there's not the ones in Columbus, like they're not. They're like, the very curated stories that someone's putting on from Canva somewhere. And like, hey, I'm showing you that I got to go to Kroger and pick up a liquor order. And then I got to go do this and that. And it's like day in the life. And this is messy. And I have no makeup on and I look like a hot mess. But yet, like, let me show you what I do in a day. Let me show you behind the scenes of X, Y, and Z or whatever. So I do think that that combination of not being a corporate entity and just being like, I literally, when we tour, I'm like, yeah, like it's me and him. Like, that's it. There is no like bosses. Like it's me. Like if I want to make a decision about something, I make it. And I do think I think we would do great. But I do think the marketing that we're doing now, but especially the social media, is just, it's soul sucking, but it has to be done.
Totally. That's really good feedback. And for anyone listening, it's just like, I constantly ask myself this question because we do operate venues in different places. And it's like, is there a thing? Is there a minimum requirement of things that you need to do? Like, should you be on TikTok? Do you have a vibrant posting schedule on Pinterest? Like, yeah, some of those things. And I know that comes up a lot in the wedding world. And when you're a new venue or even an experienced venue owner, and you're like, I want to grow, you're thinking, how much more business would I get if I went on any of these places? And so that's super good feedback from your experience. I love that.
I haven't. TikTok, I need to do more. Right now, I just post my reels to TikTok. Like I do the double post, but I just feel so old for TikTok. And I know I'm not, and I know this is an excuse in my own book to do it. Cause I mean, I always think to myself, like, my mom loves Facebook. I'm an Instagram girl. I'm 37. I'm an Instagrammer. Who am I trying to target? The TikTokers. Like, that's who I'm trying to freaking target. So I have to just suck it up and I have to start doing my TikTok. But yeah, we hire out Pinterest. Like, I love Pinterest, but I don't have time. Like, I don't have time for it. So someone else pins all our pins and does all of our stuff.
Cool. In terms of other vendors, who do you use in terms of, did you hire website or did you design it? All of your other marketing things, like, is that how much is you, and then how much did you decide to outsource?
So Alex started with our website, and then we had an SEO group, and they were absolutely fantastic. We love them, still do. They host our website. They design a new website, and this is one of those things that, me being a type A, 24-hour email turnaround time, I'm a psycho. Alex is a psycho about all things creative, about all things website, about all things. So even though we paid to have someone do a new website for us, he was just like, well, I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I want this to be bigger, and I want this to move to the right, and I want this. And I'm just like, I asked you if you wanted to do this yourself. We had this conversation, and you told me you didn't have time or whatever. So now he's back to doing it. So we did hire it out, but now he's just like, I know I need to do that because that's what like fulfills me, and that's what will drive me crazy. So now he does that. The website stuff, Urban has their own website, but they're linked together. So he now does both of those. And then our SEO, again, we're trying kind of something different a little bit. We still have a third party involved with it, but we're more hands-on than we have been in the past.
Totally. And you said Pinterest. No
yes.
TikTok yet?
We have it. It would have to be me. And that's what it's like, and that is the double-edged sword of this, though. So in throwing that out there, we have talked about the fact that I'm like, hey, I'm 38. I have 2 kids. I'm going to have to pass the reins on sometime if we want to grow. So if we want to grow, I have to kind of like bring somebody in and teach them how to be me, or how to have the essence of this place. Yeah. And that's really hard to think about. I'm thinking 5 years from now. And so I know, I need to do it, but yet I also, need to make sure I'm doing other stuff. And it's not just me, because I don't want people to, I do want them to book our space because of us, but it's like, I also don't want you to be mad when Jonah is the one that's here on your wedding day, which has happened before. They were just like, you're not here. And I'm like, I'm here 50 hours a week. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so and now I have to explain to people, I hold your hand the whole way. it might be me on your wedding day working, or it might be one of my other 7 managers, one of the two. But yeah, so TikTok is coming. That'll be my 2024 resolution.
Perfect. We'll get. I'm here for that. I want to transition a little bit to kind of the operation side of things. And so, like when you said growth just now, are you talking about a third venue potentially?
No, absolutely not. I told him, I said, I mentally do not know if we can do another one.
But he might also buy.
Correct. He might just surprise me and say, hey, Casey, have a good time. That also could happen. No, I mean, what now? So we do run that restaurant. So Bucci's is the name of the restaurant. It is on the first floor. So Urban is on the second floor. Bucci's is on the first floor. It's great, absolutely fantastic food, but, I have the catering background and I'm the one that knows how the catering stuff works. And so, catering is great money. The profit margins are way better than a restaurant is. And so, I'm thinking about, okay, we're catering 10 things this year, or however many things. How can we grow that? We work a lot of our, on top of our 50 weddings or plus a year, I do a ton of corporate events. So Ohio Health is our big, hospital chain. And I do 5 events a year for them that are huge, very, very expensive events. And, so I'm trying to figure out, okay, who else can we get here? Whirlpool is in our town. We have, the headquarters of Whirlpool. And so, I'm thinking like, okay, how can we develop our corporate stuff? How can we, bring more money in with the catering side? Do I want to add planning? Probably not ever. But, is that something that is going to, be good for us business wise? And so that's like the next step that I'm headed towards is, I want to triple our revenue in 3 years. Like, what is it going to take for me to get to there?
Totally. And I hear, so some levers that you're thinking about. You're thinking about planning. You're thinking about the catering side. Catering, it sounds like you already have, that's already kind of sort of could be in-house because you have the restaurant. What about liquor and bar?
Oh yeah, no, we definitely do liquor. Okay. Number one. Oh yeah. Whenever I hear people say that they don't have their liquor license and I'm listening to a podcast, I'm like screaming in the car. I'm like, go get your liquor license. It is such a huge piece of our revenue. It is not even funny. It's well worth any trouble that you have to go through to get your liquor license. Please do it because, especially for us, and we're on the low end of charging per person. We are on, compared to Columbus, our liquor prices are half of what they are in Columbus. Maybe not half anymore. I just raised them in 2024, but still, we're talking, a beer and wine package at my place is $16.95 a person all night long. And in Columbus, it's $28 for just beer and wine, and so it's a huge difference. But our profits are insane. Like it's yeah.
That's amazing. So let's talk about that for a second, because this is a question that I know a lot of people have. It's like, wow, we've kind of packed out maybe our peaks. We're looking at our shoulder dates. What else is on the horizon? Partnerships, packaging, especially if someone has a blank canvas venue. The process, I think, to get a liquor license and then the liability. So I feel like probably 2 things. Like, is the liquor, like, are we going to get sued? Does that increase our liability? And then also, I've heard it's expensive and it takes a long time. So could you kind of tell us, like, what was your viewpoint on the liability side, and then also the cost, the actual cost to do it, and then what's the timeline like?
So Brickyard was, we had liquor licenses available. We still do in our town. And so I would say we spent $1,500 to like get the liquor license. And then past that, it was 3 or 4 months before we opened. You got to, put your application in and they have to come and see you and do all the things. And it was very easy for us. And I don't know if that's an Ohio thing that makes it very easy. It was just like application, super simple, no problem. for our insurance. So we are weird again because I contacted our local insurance rep that we use for everything, and I said, hey, do I need, super duper insurance? Like, what do I need if someone leaves here that we have served and they get into an accident and something bad happens? What does this look like? And he said, it's not about the dollar amount that you get sued for. It's how many times you get sued is the problem in a year. Knock on wood, haven't been sued yet at all. But we don't require day of insurance. Like our insurance rep was just like, it's not going to do anything. Like that won't if they're going to sue you or sue your insurance company, like it's going to happen regardless if they have $100 plus. If you look into those insurance things, most of them don't have anything to do with if they leave the property in a car, it is null and void. And so it doesn't matter what happens. But no, I am very explicit in our contract. I mean, there is no shots. End of story. I will sell you a shot, but we do not do an open bar with shots. And I will cut you off in a hot second and I won't think twice about it. I don't care if you're the father or the bride. I will cut you off. Sorry. That's it. But it for us, it wasn't bad. It was super simple. And it is a large piece of our revenue is on our bar.
That's huge. That's huge. Gosh, $1,500. That's amazing. So, I mean, where I'm at, it would be 100,000 plus. And yeah, and it would take maybe a year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So there is a big difference. And I think where you're at in the country. So this would be good. This would be a good conversation to have because I think depending on where you're at, I'm curious if at $100,000 and if it did take a year, would you revise what you said? Like it's worth all of the pain and the line and all that. Like, is that still?
I mean, our average liquor package, even being as low cost as we are, I mean, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 per couple. So most of our couples go anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. A $2,000 liquor package, I might have $200 in the entire thing. Between the cups and the beer and the wine, I mean, I might have $200 in it. So even if it was $100,000, I might still stay there. I know that in our town, I think they're all gone now, but I know one guy I think is trying to sell it for $20,000, his liquor license. So I just think we were lucky that we got ours and it was available and it wasn't that expensive.
So Casey, you make a really good point. If someone's listening to this right now and you're like, I am in wherever you are, right? It might be worth checking out. Are there liquor licenses available? Don't just automatically factor that into your pro forma if that's the plan. But if you do plan on going that route, maybe worth checking out and seeing if you can pick up something for $1,500 or $3,000 or $5,000, or if something's available, scoop it while you can, because it'll be a huge revenue driver.
Yeah, I want to say they just called our city and said hey, who's got them? If there used to be a restaurant here and there's not a restaurant here anymore. 9 times out of 10, the owner of that restaurant still owns that liquor license. And I mean, our yearly cost, I just paid the other day because we have Sunday sales now. I mean, it's $2,000 a year for me to renew my liquor license. And yeah, there are times that I'm just man, I would love if we weren't responsible for all these people and damages or, knock on wood, we hardly ever have anything. I can count on one hand how many times we've had any major damages. But then I see my monthly okay, that's how much we made on our liquor sales. So it's worth babysitting cousin Johnny because he can't hold his liquor. So, and I do think a lot of people I've had, we have another venue. It's a barn venue in our town. And so we work a lot of times together. I'm a team player. I'm Kevin, you are not my competition. Like, we are friends. We are like, I'm going to help you out because we do not share the same couple that would get married here. And, you know, he has said the same thing. Like, I just don't know if it's worth it. And, you know, and that you can hire licensed bartenders to come in and have the beer just like probably everyone else does. And I said, Kevin, you just need to explain it to them. Like, if I run out of beer, I got to drive to Kroger and get more because I promised you that there would be beer here all night long. And I think it's just spinning it in a way that it's like, hey, look, you're not going to be making beer runs. I'm responsible for all of this stuff. It is one less thing you have to worry about. And if you over order 17 cases of red wine that you're going to be stuck with for the next 6 years, you know, we take all of that away from you. And then I just have stock. I mean, I get deliveries 3 or 4 times a month and I just have stock. And again, knock on wood, haven't had to run to Kroger because I ran out of anything yet. So
that's huge. And probably once you get the pace of your events, and you can do that because you have your events scheduled up front. I love it. I mean, it totally makes sense. In terms of what people get when they get married or use the space for an event at both properties, what are people getting? And could we start maybe Brickyard and then go Urban 501?
Yeah. So Brickyard, they get, you mean like just like physical?
Yeah, like tables and chairs. Are they getting hours of access, things like that?
So our base price, they get in the door at 9 a.m. When I worked in Columbus, I was like, you get in at noon? What are you supposed to do between noon and 3? Like when you walk down the aisle. So that was a huge selling point for us. And it cost me, you know, however much an hour to have somebody there with them from 9 a.m. on. So we do 9 a.m. access time. That is all your tables, all your chairs. We have talked about it at your final meeting and you've told me how you wanted them set up. And so I have them set up for you, ready to go. If you get linens, the linens are on. So you're coming in and putting your centerpieces on. You get 6 hours as long as you get married on site. And the hours start 30 minutes before you walk down the aisle. So, you know, your ceremony hour is 4 to 5, and then you get 5 to 10, 4.75 hours of alcohol. And then I don't have a hard out time. I usually just tell people like, look, we help you take your centerpieces down because we want to go too. And so usually they're out within an hour. One of my brides last year stayed like 2 hours because she hand wrapped every vase and put it away in the tote to sell it. Yeah, that's not happening anymore. It ain't happening. So, you know, everyone knows now, you know, you do that at home. We pack it up and, but yeah, so this year we actually added on some packages. So our one includes ceremony linens, yard games, and ceremony setup and cleanup. And, you know, one of the best parts of that is the only thing I have to pay for is the linens in that. So that's the only thing that is coming out of my pocket is the linens. The rest of it just sounds really good on paper. You know, but we're charging $1,500 for that package. Yeah. And, you know, the setup, I explained to them like, hey, you're going to set up one table and then I'm going to replicate it for you. But it does not include, once again, this is the Casey coming out. It does not include plates, forks, spoons, name plates, because we've had someone do that before and it was terrible. And so, you know, but I'm very upfront about that. This is what it does include. This is what it doesn't include. And then, you know, the next one. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I love that you touched on, and I think this is so important, is you talked about perceived value versus actual value. People may perceive that there's a high level of value to them to have someone set up and tear down tables and chairs or any one of the things that you just listed out. But in reality, those are things that you're going to have to do anyway. You are not necessarily marketing to them the hard things that your team has to do because there may be no value to the consumer. Yeah. They're going to be like, oh, cleaning this or that. Like, yeah, it doesn't like, they won't even think about it. And for you, it's like, oh, that's the hard thing. That's the thing that I should be charging for. But you've used this dynamic perfectly. Charge for the perceived value so that you can still, you know, keep your margins where they need to be at. I love that. That's brilliant.
Exactly. It's been really great. I mean, we've only had, because I still tell them on the, you know, the bottom of my brochure, like these packages are optional. You don't have to add them. I will a la carte you a ceremony and linens with no problem. But those two alone are usually $1,000. And so then it's like, hey, if ceremony or setup and cleanup of your, now, is my staff still going to tear their centerpieces down? Yes, because we will do it 15, 20 minutes before the end of the night so that they're heading out as we're breaking down all their stuff. But you know what I mean? They don't need to know that. Like, they don't need to know that we're going to do it anyway. But yeah, we added that on. And then our other ones were, we bought LED pillar candles, really nice LED pillar candles, sparkler exit. That's like $7 for, a sparkler exit, but we facilitate that. And that's a big deal to people because we all know how much sparkler exits suck. And like, no one knows what they're doing. And, they throw them on the ground. And so that alone is a huge value to them. Like, hey, you'll do that for me? Yes, I will. Thank you so much.
You're going to have the bucket and you're going to have,
exactly.
You're going to have all that stuff already covered. You're not leaving it to them or some plant who's coming in. I love that.
Yeah. We had an extra hour on that one too. That was our other big thing, is that people want an extra hour. Okay. Well, for $2,500 in addition to, and all the packages grow on top of each other. Okay. I'll give you an extra hour. Like, so that was, I'm super excited about these packages that we have, that we've come up with this year. But
very neat. Very neat. I want to, I have one more question and then we'll wrap for today. I'm wondering, in terms of, you've mentioned a couple times a team who's setting up, tearing down, things like that. Mm-hmm. How did you hire them? And then how do you kind of maintain that group of people during the seasonality of this business?
So I was, from the very beginning, like I said, I worked every wedding for the first 2 years. I told my husband, like, this is going to suck real bad, but like, it's going to be worth it in the end. So I hired just staff. I put an ad, on our Facebook and said, hey, do I have any moms, grandmas, high schoolers, nurses, whoever, I don't care. Come hang out with me. Let's do this. From the beginning, I was very like, I will pay very well and for around here, because I don't want minimum wage work. So I need a much higher wage work, effort and the other thing I do, so I had a great pool of people to begin with. And then from that pool for 2 years, I knew, like, okay, you've got a good head on your shoulders. You're a nurse, you're a teacher. I'm going to teach you how to be the manager. And I'm going to teach you how to deal with all the situations and all the crap and all the like weird things that happen. And so I taught them all of that. And then every season I just do, a mass, like, hey, here it is. Like, if you're interested in this off season, I think it's perfect. I mean, I called it like my getaway job when I worked in Columbus. It was like, I got to get away from my kids and my husband, and I just got to go hang out and have fun and eat cake. And, I'd come home with a prime rib, and so I thought it was great. And so that's kind of how I market it to people. But the other thing I do, so I pay very well. And then I do an 18% service charge on every bar package. So that can range from $400 to $700. And that gets split between everyone that works that event. So the bartender gets a higher split, and then it gets split between the managers and then the support staff. So I usually have 2 support staff and then an AM manager and a PM manager. And so it can be another $100 on top of what I paid you hourly. And yeah, and I have had great luck. I mean, I've had one manager not work anymore. She had a son, and she's just like, hey, like, I just want to have my weekends. I'm like, girl, yes, do that. I know you'll be back. I know you will, because they're going to drive you crazy someday. And I said, you just call me. But I take very, very, very good care of the people that work for me. I mean, we have our Christmas party next week. If we have a terrible wedding, they will wake up to a Starbucks gift card, and it says, like, I appreciate you. I couldn't do this without you. Go get coffee on me. And it's a coffee from me. Or I do a ton of that stuff just because like I want to be home with my family now. Like I don't want to work Saturday nights and Sundays and Friday nights. And so if I take care of you, you will take care of me. And I've had, all of last year, maybe 5 call-offs, maybe in the entire year. But Alex and I were talking about this, and he's like, I think it's a combination of us taking care of them, but then it's just like, hey, this is what I expect out of you. I like you. I treat everybody like this, whether you are a multimillionaire or, whoever. I don't care. I do not care. And so I think that is how we keep people and how we have longevity in all of our people.
That's incredible. I think people resonate with just understanding, hey, this is exactly what Casey expects of me. Show up here, do this, boom, boom, and then I'm done. There's not a lot of ambiguity. There's not a lot of wondering, is this like, how good of a job is this? Like it sounds like you've invested time in training them. Mm-hmm. And so that's incredible. Yeah. Kudos.
We do multiple times a year. We usually do like a spring, I call it like my spring training, like baseball. Like I do a spring baseball training. And then I do like a late August, like right before that September, October, November, December, just like pounds us. I just do hey, I'm going to buy everybody dinner, and we come in and we eat pizza, and we literally go clean the bathroom as a group. So just in case anybody forgets, like we're going to go clean the bathroom. We are going to take the trash out. We're going to do all these things because you know how it is. Like people are hired and people leave and people go to college. And then you're training one of my people, but like, did you forget something? Like, and so that's my thing. Like, hey, mom trained you for spring training and fall training. And so, if you tell me that you didn't know something, it's a dirty dog lie. Like I know you did because I showed you myself. And we have a great staff. I am beyond thrilled with all of our staff and how lucky we are.
That's incredible. Casey, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Last 2 questions I ask everyone: favorite and least favorite part of venue ownership and operation.
Oh gosh. Okay. Favorite part. I do love just getting to know everybody. I have some people that I talk to multiple times a month, a week. And I have lifelong friendships that I have from brides that have gotten married here. Not many of them have my real phone number. A lot of them have like the phone number that goes to your phone from like the app that we all have. But if a handful of them, like I have gotten so close with, and I absolutely love them. Least favorite part, goodness gracious. I want to say TikTok, but that's the obvious answer.
That's coming in 2025. You gotta be ready for it.
I know. You know what? Probably the least favorite is just prioritizing my time and figuring out like, okay, I'm going to answer emails from this time to this time. And then I'm not going to touch my email, and I need to focus on payroll, and I need to focus on this and that, and kind of like keeping myself, and I am already a scheduled person, but like I need to get better at, doing it even more because it's just a lot. And like social media, for example, it falls, I post at 10 p.m. because I'm laying in bed almost asleep, and I'm like, crap, like I didn't post today or whatever. So it's just getting in a more, like rigid schedule of trying to get all the things done. But yeah, that would be it.
Very cool. Well, Casey, thanks so much for sharing with us about the Brickyard and about Urban 501. And if people are interested, they want to connect with you, maybe something that you said inspired them, how should they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So follow us on Instagram, brickyardonmain.com. Urban 501 Events, or Brickyard on Main is our Instagram. Urban 501 Events is our Instagram. Brickyardonmain.com takes you to our website. And then, we're on Facebook and all of the things. But this has been absolutely great. I have now fulfilled my 2023 resolution thanks to Alex, and he's going to be super excited.
Amazing. Casey, thank you so much for coming on today. This was great.
Thank you.
Hey friends, Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events consulting packages. If you are a venue owner and you're struggling with your marketing, your sales, your operations, or maybe there's just, you're new to the industry and you want to really have a leg up and get a jump start on getting your business going and not make a lot of the mistakes that oftentimes people make, the mistakes that we made, frankly, when we first started, we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. Our team has experience working with over 10 venues all across the United States, doing consulting. We've hosted hundreds and hundreds of weddings at this point, and we know what it takes to be successful. If this sounds interesting to you, we would love to chat with you. You can either reach out by filling out the link in the description of the video or podcast, or you can just email us at venues@cseventservices.com, and we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. All right, back to the show.